Hi. Hi, everyone. This is Sauravishwar Sen, founder and mentor of Catalyst, and I hope all of you are doing well. So tonight we are focusing on certain stories connected with career pathways with climate innovation, which are majorly focused on the different opportunities which our students at Catalyst had pursued over the years. Since 2011, if I recollect, our students has been pretty proactive in the space of climate innovation, in the space of pursuing courses which are connected with climate, which are connected with sustainability. And recently we had the COP27 summit, the conference, and Egypt concluded on 18th of November. And the very important aspect which we realized while we were looking at the COP27 summit essentially related to the fact that the 1.5 degrees Celsius ceiling of temperature, which was supposedly to be maintained, that of course it is getting more and more difficult. Leaders from across the nation, they participated in the event. We had some of our students, ex-students from Catalyst, actually traveling to Egypt and participating in the conference. Now, in the first place, traveling itself is a carbon positive activity, for which quite naturally, we have to be really careful and mindful about how we use our decisions in our lifetime to be able to mitigate the ever-evolving issues. So let me start off with one of our former students, Pratibha Kalib. Pratibha, and I'm kind of using LinkedIn for each and every one of you to be able to utilize the understanding of career pathways with climate science, climate innovation in a way which is not too difficult. And LinkedIn actually serves a great purpose to be able to connect with professionals who are actually working in the field. So I would like to first bring all of your attention to Pratibha. And Pratibha was our student in Catalyst around 2013, 2014. She was pursuing her bachelor's in geography, and she wanted to really apply her skills and competence to a domain in which she could use her love for geography in a functional format, not necessarily looking into a master's within the core subject itself, but looking for more, application-oriented opportunities. That is where Pratibha converted a master's in urban policy and governance at Tata Institute of Social Sciences. And while pursuing the master's program, Pratibha got an opportunity to work back then on her master's thesis on the transformation of the transport sector. And she was actually very keen to understand how a city like Mumbai in India, which is supposedly the maximum city, as we know, can be made car-free. So the focus was on how shared mobility of transportation can actually bring in those changes in order to minimize emission. But of course, reality had its own stories back then, but Pratibha's findings, Pratibha's dissertation really gave her a very strong insight, and based on which she actually went on for her, further specialization with sustainability, while being part of the TISS program in urban policy. Pratibha got a really interesting opportunity to work with the National Institute of Urban Affairs, one of the apex think tanks, research organizations that advises the government on different urban development projects, on urban transformation projects. And she got an opportunity to work with the solid waste department of the Kolkata Municipal Corporation. Now in Kolkata, like if some of you have been to the city, like the entire locality where Pratibha worked back then, which used to be like the dumping ground for waste in Calcutta, one of the largest landfill sites, is now actually transformed into a banquet, an exhibition arena, one of the really sought after and very upscale places, for weddings. Now, this is something very interesting for all of us to understand, that what used to previously be possibly a very stinking, a really, eyesore landfill. And it actually, like I remember, early days, almost like a decade back, where we used to pass by and we had to literally, wind up our car windows if you were not traveling in an air-conditioned vehicle, because the obnoxious smell of the organic, inorganic, biodegradable, non-biodegradable. We were not sure if the wastes were separated in the first place of that locality. And now, as we speak, that entire area has been transformed into a complete makeover. And we call it the PC Chandra Greens, from a private organization, like a jewelry brand, who has invested money to transform the erstwhile landfill into a banquet space. So Pratibha actually got an opportunity to work in that stage when it was getting converted. 2 years down the line, after TISS, she was first working as a consultant with the Council of Energy, Environment and Water, went forward to become a deputy manager with development alternatives, again, like one of the really nuanced organizations that work in the space of sustainability, resource efficiency. So Pratibha was working with how efficiently sustainable housing and urbanization can be actually integrated. And she led projects to understand distribution of water across different important Indian cities. From development alternatives, for the last close to 4 years now, Pratibha is working as a senior project officer with ICLEI South Asia. So ICLEI South Asia is also one of the very important apex research advisory firms that work in the space of energy, sustainability, climate innovation. They are like advisors to government, private organizations, startups. They kind of work on the research arenas, the findings which are important for us to take our decisions forward. So Pratibha has been, for over almost the last 6-7 years, into the space of climate innovation, right? Now, the work that she's doing, we need more of our young students to actually be able to replicate or be able to be part of that professional sector. Because however much we do conferences, we get together, the bottom line is, to solve a problem, we need sustained solution. Sustained solution comes from professionals who are remunerated well when they utilize their skills and competence to be able to work for the sector. So that is, and like one of our students from Catalyst, Pratibha, who went forward with her master's in TISS and looked into the scope of intervening into the field of sustainability. Moving forward, I would like to bring to everyone's attention our, next student, from Catalyst, Prantik Mitra. And Prantik was someone who was really very, very concerned about things happening around. And he was, from the time he came to Catalyst, he was an individual who really cared for the way things were. And he would always, accept everything with a pinch of salt. Prantik was someone who also believed that in order to bring in change, you got to first win the confidence of communities and people who are part of the change. So you can't be just the sole change maker, right? You got to bring in that consciousness amongst the community to be able to, facilitate that change inclusively. You got to bring in the diversity of the population, like a country like India, to a common shared passion of understanding how the society can be made more inclusive and sustainable. So while Prantik was part of the Catalyst support and training, he participated in one of our partner projects called the Create to Inspire project by Microsoft, back then Nokia, and we collaborated with a very well-known impact agency, Arts Forward, led by Paramita Saha, who helped our vision, to secure more consciousness about what was coming up in our society by involving people, and specifically young students from various educational campuses in and around Kolkata, to participate in what we called a celebratory parade. Because we realized that the major thematic areas for the project, which included, requesting people to share and, recycle their phones, or recycle their electronic products in order to sustain the society, was a very daunting task to achieve without any remunerative or without any cash incentive given to the people. So that is where the Catalyst students, led by Prantik, we had so many of them. I still remember, back 6 years ago, led by Arts Forward, Paramita Saha, they conceptualized a very interesting parade at the educational grounds in and around Kolkata, where Prantik and his fellow batchmates from Catalyst, they personified elements or metals which are trapped inside smartphones. And the message was very clear that, these metals, even if your phones or your electronic gadget, including your laptops, your computers, your earphones, your earplugs, your earpods, and there were like so many, your Walkman, your speakers, even if they go dead, they're not working. I mean, you feel that their life cycle has ended, but the metals still can be reused, recycled, repurposed into new avatars of maybe newer consumer electronic goods. So this was back in 2015. Very interestingly, like the students, they performed songs, popular numbers in English, in Hindi, in Bengali. We remember songs like John Lennon's Imagine, got tweaked so that the lyrics actually supported and made everyone understand the importance of electronic waste recycling. 2016 was a year, very interestingly, the electronic waste management rules, like a bill, was passed by the Parliament of India. And that became like a norm as a part of the audit system under the Ministry of Electronics and Telecommunication, that every producer organization who are manufacturing electronic goods also need to audit at the end of every financial year of what percentage of what they're producing are they able to take back. The writing was very clear on the wall that resources on our beloved planet Earth is getting restrained. We cannot keep extracting elements from the Earth without creating a mechanism of how we can balance our supply with the demand. And this was the project which really gave our students such brilliant, exposure to understand, number one, human behavior, number two, the society at large, number three, the gaps between theory and practice, which we call praxis in any case. And Prantik really was someone who kept on believing, in that activity that he was part of. Prantik went for his master's after the Catalyst support with climate science and policy at Terry School of Advanced Studies. And if you see his experience, he has like a pretty expansive experience. And you'll see that the Create to Inspire fellowship, which we were talking about of Microsoft, was where he really picked up the leadership skill. And we indirectly taught our students what was climate financing truly about. And back then, quite naturally, the focus was not exactly on the climate crisis, or people would not be keeping that agenda in top of the priority. Even in India, we were not talking enough about climate science and climate change careers or climate innovation. So that was a very important time to be able to envisage what lay ahead. Prantik went on, with his work, his strong interest in that domain with an internship in IIT Delhi. He worked on climate modeling as a student researcher in Terry. I remember, Prantik was very proactive. He not only won the confidence of his research guide, mentors, and professors, but he also, was constantly innovating within his own rights and limitations, which is something that is very critical in these rapidly changing times that we are in. On top of it, everything has got exacerbated with the COVID-19 pandemic. So the backlogs of the 2.5 years, whether it is our learning gaps in education, whether it is the loss of livelihood opportunity, whether, the gender discrimination getting more widened, whether gender-based violence is also getting widened. On top of it, the climate crisis and the impact of climate change, the vulnerability on communities, on gender, on disability, has become only and only more deeper. That is where people like Prantik, people like Pratibha, who are professionally working in that space, we need, like how we had over the years, the engineers, the doctors, the MBA grads from our schools doing some outstanding work for the society and economy. We need climate innovation, climate change-oriented professionals, degree holders, qualifiers, certificate holders to actively participate in nation building, right? If you see Prantik's trajectory, he was also a guest lecturer at Terry School of Advanced Studies. Thanks to his leadership abilities, his really strong intuitive communication skills, that Terry University gave him that pedestal, to really transfer his knowledge and capacity building to junior students. Prantik was active across, as you can see, being a mentor and technical advisor with a Youth Challenge International Summit, a climate reality leader. He then became part of Microenergy Credits, where he's still working. He's now been appointed as a strategy director. Prantik, whenever we meet him, we always get to learn so much from his work. He was actively part of the electric vehicle rollout and this entire policy planning, the modeling around the electric vehicle rollout, which sometimes nowadays we assume that to be a normal form of transportation in different cities. Prantik also has been speaking very strongly about solar electrification projects from microenergy credits that they're doing in India, Bangladesh, in neighborhood countries. And it's really heartening to find that the education system is actually integrating, with the crisis communication, alarm button that has been pressed in COP27 as we speak. Moving forward from Prantik, I would like to shift your attention and all of your attention to someone, a little more younger, someone who's kind of fresh out of school, Upamannu Datta from our school batch of students at Catalyst. Upamannu, coming from a humanities, liberal arts background back in school, felt really strongly, with our orientation in Catalyst, and where he also got an opportunity to participate in a primary research data drive during COVID-19 pandemic. And we tried to support our students even during the most challenging times with a primary data collection drive. And they actually did like field work, which was reimagined, through online intervention, and collected data on the perception of work from home during lockdown, the perception on mental health. There was also like a project which was centered around the relevance of the history of India, to the modern society that we are in. This entire project was run by one of our alumna, Kusumika Ghosh. Kusumika, a Tata Institute of Social Science graduate, now pursuing her doctoral studies in Dublin City University, took the leadership role, to support our students even during the hardest times. And we can't thank Kusumika enough, because she's not done that just once, but she has done that since 2018, year after year, supporting every year the aspirants who are preparing for opportunities in bachelor's with social science, social work, public policy, or a master's in social sciences, whether they want to apply to India or they want to apply to abroad. The acumen towards research, the acumen towards research methodology, the acumen towards understanding society in a structured format is an indisposable, skill, which is becoming more and more relevant. So Kusumika has been really strong with her, forte, leading from the front to support our students with that work. Upamannu, I would like to share, Upamannu's trajectory with you, all of you, from a humanistic studies back in school. Upamannu did not want to really get into a stream which led to a more generic opportunity, but he preferred to focus specifically on sustainability. That is where Upamannu went for his bachelor's in sustainable development at XIM University, Bhubaneswar. And this has been a prolific program, I must tell you, because not only Upamannu, we have like several other students from Catalyst over the last few years. I remember Shirsha Barik. I'm going to share Shirsha's trajectory also with all of you, who's been like, really, harnessing the opportunities, connected with the outcomes of this program as we speak. So Upamannu, during his coursework at XIM University, Bhubaneswar, got an opportunity right after he started his bachelor's to intern with the Center for Environment Education, CEE, on waste management. Now, this is one domain, the waste management aspect of things connected with circular economy, which is really becoming significant, in terms of the opportunities that lay untapped. So waste apparently has a potential to be transformed to wealth. So the way waste is handled, this entire operational mechanism of handling waste itself requires agencies, individuals, startups, entrepreneurs, and an entire ecosystem, which is, of course, a value chain, will be able to handle and manage that waste without causing further environmental damage and degradation to a society. And that is where the entire untapped opportunity lies. So I'm going to talk about an agency called Karo Sambhav, led by Pranshu Singhal, who was part of Microsoft. When Prantik did the project on Create to Inspire. Karo Sambhav is an agency that actually works to formalize rack pickers, who otherwise would be trying to extract the metals from our phones in a manner which could be pretty harmful to environment and society. So Pranshu looked into that opportunity, and he has now been able to create and convert that challenge into a livelihood platform for hundreds and thousands and lakhs of community members who erstwhile, they were part of this informal group of extracting metals and selling it to the scrap market without, of course, any due diligence. Now, many of these community members, led by Karo Sambhav, across different parts of the country, are able to formalize their way of work. They are able to use the government support system, the ease of doing business frameworks, to be able to leverage their work. So similar to that consciousness and that philosophy, one would say that the School of Sustainability at Exine University envisages that those prospects, and Upamannu is right in it. In this year, May 2022 till June 2022, Upamannu, as you can all see, he was a summer intern with the Ladakh Ecological Development Group. He went to Ladakh. He was super excited, to kind of go to one of the highest altitude cold desert in India. And Upamannu worked extensively on the Swachh Bharat mission, the understanding of how information, how the knowledge of education, how the knowledge of waste management needs to be imbibed into the community of Ladakh. Now that, over the last 2 years, Ladakh's been a new union territory under the Indian governance, quite naturally, they are opening up their economy. They want to compete with the rest of the country. They want to feel at par. And that is where civil society, our educational programs play an incredible role to be able to supply professionals who has the skill and competence that can be recognized by projects, that can be recognized by partnerships, CSR opportunities, ESG opportunities, so that they can be recruited, hired, and be deployed to implement those plans, which most of it have been discussed even in COP27 in Egypt. So that is Upamannu's trajectory for all of you. Moving forward, like from Upamannu, like we first saw Pratibha Kalib, like from her background of geography to urban policy and governance at TISS, to working with ICLEI South Asia as a sustainability officer. Then we saw Prantik's trajectory from pursuing a master's in Terry University in New Delhi, and then working with microenergy credits, working in the entire space of how to reduce carbon emissions and reduce the burden of carbon negativity, in fact, carbon positivity in our society, to Upamannu, who is right now pursuing a course in sustainability. From Upamannu, we would like to, go to someone like Shreya Kormukar, again, a student of Catalyst. Like Shreya, I would like to share this with all of you that she joined Catalyst with an strong urge, again, to be able to be in a meaningful, employable sector. Shreya was drawn, to the entire aspect of environment, natural resources. That is where we supported Shreya, and she got through the Masters of Natural Resource and Governance under the School of Livelihood and Development at TISS Hyderabad in around 2017 and 19. Shreya worked extensively, and not only doing her classes, but she got an opportunity to even be part of the exchange program offered by TISS Hyderabad to go to Birmingham and actually work on different aspects of carbon emissions, water pollution, climate change. And I'm talking about 2018. So if you see like so many of our students in Catalyst, pre-COVID, they were actively working, studying, researching, intervening, doing projects in the space of climate change and sustainability. And Shreya was one of them, right on the front. I had a great opportunity to meet Shreya. I remember back in 2019, 2018 rather, when I was invited as a mentor to TISS Hyderabad for preparing their master students, like 160 of them, if I'm not mistaken, to be ready for their placements in campuses. So Shreya was again like my student, even beyond Catalyst, and that was like an icing on the cake, I would say. I remember like lovely time we had, and we went around Hyderabad. Shreya, Shomo Debarupa, they all took me, around the city of Hyderabad. Beautiful city, great memories, great food, great, camaraderie, and Shreya's completion of graduation from TISS led to an opportunity where she initially started working with Foundation for Ecological Security in Rajasthan as a project manager. She was there almost till the time that the COVID-19 lockdown happened. And quite naturally, like all of us, the projects were kind of a little stalled. So Shreya came back to her hometown, but she got an opportunity in the same year to work with a very interesting organization called Switch On Foundation, one of the rare civil society organizations in India to actually focus on air pollution. I mean, Switch On been doing strong, relentless, prolific work in the space of air pollution control. So Shreya was a project manager with Switch On Foundation, working on renewable energy, working on issues of urban planning. I remember like during her work, they had organized several events which were really interesting, right from the plogging events of collecting environmental waste and running. It was part of a marathon. Then there was like series of very pertinent knowledge transfer sessions done by Switch On Foundation, month after month on creating the stronger awareness on air pollution, for people around, getting more stakeholders together, basically, building the opportunity for funders, for investors, for stakeholders, for startups to also look into that space where government of India also wanted innovation. They had allocated budget, and that was like a great opportunity for all of us through Switch On to be part of it. After Switch On, Shreya worked for close to a year with CDRI as a research assistant, working in the scope of advocacy, especially in the scope of disaster and climate. And she used to work actually with, geopolitical relationships through CDRI. And now as we speak, very interestingly, Shreya, just this October, has got hired by PricewaterhouseCoopers, one of the really well-known organizations, advisory firms with offices literally all over the planet, hiring her as an associate consultant, under their climate resilience and disaster risk reduction department. And that is something very significant that, large corporations are recalibrating their organizational structure, their business policies. They are introducing business verticals which are important connectivity to the mandates of COP27. It's not that, it's just an annual affair where leaders are gathering and then, you go back to your own work. But the newer opportunities which are coming up, in terms of academic opportunities, in terms of opportunities to really focus on innovation, startups, social entrepreneurship, because climate crisis typically, impacts the most vulnerable, the most marginalized, the most downtrodden, or the most, risk communities in terms of whether it is weather or their geographic location or their demography, much more than people like us who are, secured, sitting inside an air-conditioned room, and we might not be so aware of the temperature fluctuations, which might be wreaking havoc, in the agricultural fields. It's only that when we look forward, to buying our daily essentials, we realize the type of inflation over prices that has happened in the last 4 or 5 years. Unfortunately, our most of the times, the way our jobs are designed, it kind of camouflages that changes. And people who are quite naturally, they have greater access to the internet, to various resources, to strong educational opportunities in terms of learning outcomes per se. They are not impacted, but unfortunately our farmers are impacted, our tribals are impacted, our Adivasis are impacted. We are noticing such strong erratic changes in climate pattern across the bay, whether it's Bay of Bengal or Arabian Sea, in a country like India, which is peninsular. Like, we are finding tropical cyclones hitting the coasts of Bay of Bengal quite often, like states like Orissa and Paradip and, Andhra Pradesh, West Bengal, Bangladesh, of course, they are facing the brunt every year. So, and the timings are really not matching what we have studied in our geography, which is a great concern, because when rainfall happens at a time when it's not supposed to rain, it directly impacts the cycle and the planning of agriculture, right? And so many policies are kind of, over the years, have been woven around our seasons, right? So that becomes a great challenge for our farmers, for our community members. And that is where careers with climate innovation can really bring in a strong, sustained society by acting bottoms up. And students like Shreya Kormokar, Prantik Mitra, Pratibha Kalib, Upamannu Datta, whom all we discussed about, with their courses at various places like Tata Institute of Social Sciences, XIM University, Terry University, as we speak, like we are seeing climate opportunities coming out of different colleges, different universities. National Law School India University, Bangalore, with their Masters in Public Policy, they're also interfacing very strongly with opportunities with sustainability, with climate innovation. Advisory firms from all the big fours are hiring students who can help them identify the gaps and the implementation mechanism of how climate crisis can be mitigated, because you cannot stop climate change. I mean, Prantik, who is into this segment for over the last 6 years now, he keeps telling this to us that, you cannot stop climate change. Climate will change, but you got to find your way out. You got to innovate your way out through the sector. So that is where, we would urge parents, families, students, teachers, faculty, professors to talk about career opportunities with climate science, climate policy, climate innovation, sustainability studies within the classroom. Because like how we would always, fancy becoming an astronaut and going to outer space, now in 2022, 2023, there is much more that we need to do at ground level, at grassroots level. Of course, we need a satellite back in the outer space who can actually help understand climatic patterns, understand wind patterns, and inform the farmer on the field accordingly. So this is exactly where the entire opportunity with climate innovation, climate careers with climate change is really opening up. And Catalyst has been, over the years, very responsive towards it. We have always encouraged our students, our young minds, our stakeholders to support careers, because every time we look back into history, when we see and we find out that problems of a society have been best solved when careers have been created and the demand for those professionals have been generated. So I urge all of you, I urge each and every one of you listening to this to stay connected with us. You can always connect with us, through our YouTube channel. You can connect with us on our website. We will be sharing this video, of course, all across as much as possible, so that some of our students, who are working in that space, you will be able to know them better. And we would love to see that you connect with them over LinkedIn, because that's like a lifeline in terms of the opportunities that you can leverage for yourself. Thank you so much for hearing, listening, and possibly thinking forward with us. Please feel free to get in touch with us through the Catalyst Network. I'm Saurabh Sen. I will again see all of you very soon in more perspective building session for really exciting opportunities when it comes to society, culture, environment, policy, and of course, the entire civilization.